So, just to finish up, the question that I like asking all the people I interview is, how did you get to do this job? How did you get to be in what would... And I think, in all fairness, I think some people would say is the best job in open source.
Well,
really is.
Open source compliance and sort of management.
No, I would probably say...
Better than your job? You have a pretty good job. You know?
Well, I enjoy my job more. But in terms of... Yeah, I mean... okay, yeah, my job is pretty good. But in terms of visibility...
You don't have to say that just because I'm your fan.
No, it's true. I mean, because I get to write exactly what I want to write as I want to write it. Yeah. But I think many people would say, sort of looking from the outside, I want to get into open source. Yeah. You know, they would say, Chris DiBona, now that's a good that's the job I want. I want his job.
Well,
sometimes
I wonder if people really know what I do. You know, most of my job is compliance work. You know, a lot of people would find that penetratingly dull. I mean, I like it. I think it's a really interesting intellectual puzzle, but. Most people are not suited to compliance work.
So all right, let's talk about how much your job sucks. But
no, my job's great.
Where did you come from? How did you?
Yeah, so
what was your background? How did you get there? Because you're not exactly a programmer, right? Although you've done programming. And
wistfully,
yeah.
You know, I actually, when I was around 29, I decided that I probably wouldn't be a programmer at 60, like a professional programmer. So you know, one of the things about Google is that you meet a lot of people who are more advanced in years who are still programming, and in some ways they're very inspirational. You know, when I look at Rob Pike, when I look at, you know, not that he's advanced in years. I mean, you know, he's probably 50s.
Greg Cheston's still doing
Greg Cheston's still doing programming work, and you know, Dick Seitz and you know, Ken Thompson. These
gives me hope.
These literal legends, right? People
gives me hope that I can still keep coding.
I have real hero complex about these people, you know, and they're still developing. And I said to myself, am I going to be like them when I'm 60? And I had to face the very real reality that I was not going to be like them at 60. I am not that smart. I am not that
few people are
awesome at programming. I am not that driven of a computer scientist. I know this to be a fact. So, what does that mean? That means we become a manager. You know? So am I good at that? Well, that's a different question. But more importantly, you know, my niche, my specialty has been open source now for 15 years, 14 years, actually doing it professionally. And it happened to me at a really good time. Basically, as open source was becoming popular, I was very much involved in it, and very much involved in some ways the weird policy angle. But the reason that was possible was because I was a programmer, and because I understood what was going on at the CPU level in ways that a lot of the people who attached themselves early on to the movement just simply did not. And so they weren't really able to understand what was going on at that level. So I think that my history as a programmer, you know, I sold my first computer program at 15 to a kiosk company in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I've been programming for a very long time, but it wasn't clear that I would be for a very long time after my late 20s, which is when I went to work for BA Linux, where we first worked together, you and I.
Yeah.
So, and in that I ran a tech support operation there. I worked on the APO team, I worked on the M&A team. I ran what was called then community marketing, you know, which was really more evangelism, I guess. But, you know, and open source and all that stuff all at once. It was very weird. And then working for Slashdot when my daughter was born. So,
but that was sort of like you got into that because of essentially your position in the Silicon Valley Linux user group was a springboard into that.
It was.
So I mean, lugs you could say are still incredibly valuable for finding people who are motivated, organized, who have the capability to become somebody like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, what I did in the lug that was interesting, I think to Larry, who hired me this is Larry Augustin, Larry Page, was I grew it from 50 people to 1,000 people. And
it was massive. I remember
really
the first time I went was...
A lot of people called it the largest, but I think there was one in Norway that was a little bigger. But,
was someone who I don't want to talk about giving a talk in Carl's Jr.
That's right.
Very first time I went. And then I managed
Carl's Jr. is a fast food restaurant.
Yeah. We soon outgrew it. It was soon too small.
Well, I mean, Linux outgrew it too. I mean, all that we were doing was basically channeling that energy. It wasn't. We didn't have to manufacture it. We didn't have to market it. We just got a bigger place and had a big enough spot.
More people kept turning up every week.
Yeah, we got good speakers back then. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, you got Linus giving a talk.
Actually, it was funny. Larry and Sergey spoke. Do you remember that time?
I didn't see that.
This was like 99, 98.
No, I
Yeah,
never
it was
saw
a
that
long
one.
time ago.
Wow.
Talking about Google or whatever. It was really... and everyone's like,
This strange search engine
yeah,
thing.
but this was before Google was a big deal, you know. It was only nerds were using it. And, yeah, so it was pretty funny. I don't even think they remember that. I haven't asked them. I should.
was that Carl's Jr. or was that...
No, that was in Cisco.
Yeah, the Cisco campus.
Yeah, Cisco, I think. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was...
All right, well, we should probably stop reminiscing, and
yeah.
You and I should probably both get back to work.
Yes, I have a lot to do.
But thanks very much for talking to us.
Anytime.
Hope people will find it interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.